seconds away, second session.
Here we go for the second session with the Wyatt squad. Cooper and Bostrick leading one submission forward from there.
My life isn't as hectic as it was when I was younger and I was doing the wrestling. I had a young family and things were hard, you know, you were trying to scrape together all the pennies you could. Now it's just nice to chill down, get home from work. If I'm not training, get out on the bike and just go for a nice steady drive through the Cotswolds. What I liked about the old times was the friendship, the laughs and things we used to have behind the scenes. You know, travelling in cars and having a chat and a laugh, and then you get to the show and you just have a good time. All depends who you're in with at the end, you know, you can come back and you're a bit bruised, but it was all part of it. It was just good fun.
I used to watch it and be mesmerised by some of the things that were going on.
I was invited to go down to a gym about 28 years ago just to watch. I just loved it. And then everything just stemmed on from there, really. And here I am, 28 years later, still doing it.
Once I'd had my first match, I was out pretty much every night of the week. Your knees, your elbows, you know, you're constantly cut. You end up with big lumps on your elbows. And sometimes you think to yourself, is it worth it?
To the red corner, Jeff Curry, Pete Collins, the Bristol.
I think, you know, that I've enjoyed my career as a wrestler, and hopefully it will continue, much to the disgust of you know, my wife, but who wants me to give it up today. On the day of any fight, I always like to come into Stratford where I live. I go down there by the river, I sit there with a nice cup of coffee, I relax and I get myself chilled. Because when you get to the venue, that's when everything kicks off, and you have to be so careful, and the adrenaline inside me just bursts, and I know that I'm going to win. That's already set in my mind. I'm going to win this match no matter what.
It can be very scary. You know, you don't know who you're on with unless you actually see a poster beforehand when you actually enter the hall. And a lot of people you've never heard of, and sometimes you went in with like top stars, and it is very scary. You know, these are big stars off the TV.
People respected the wrestlers for what they were and what they did. These days, mainly down to, I think, WWE on TV. All the kids around now, they want to be 100% entertainers. They want to be 100% flying about, and I think too many people are in the wrestling business now for themselves and not for the wrestling business.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that might get kids through.
What I didn't like about it was the travelling. I used to get home from work, grab hold of my bag, jump in the car, travel across the country, get to the hall, do the show, come back home, getting home about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, going to bed, getting up again at 6 for work. And it's very tiring. And plus it throws all your eating out of the window, so you're just grabbing something here and there, and it's not a good life when you're actually working.
Continuing the postings.
It's not something I enjoy so much now. You know, before it was a whole different ball game. You know, now a lot of the characters from wrestling have gone. The wrestling game has changed an awful lot to what it used to be.
The British wrestling is still out there.
Now, Cooper's got one public warning.
It's still keeping the wrestling up in the headlines, so it's a good thing.
I've been able to adapt, but it's got to the point I'm not really comfortable with what the wrestling business has become. We always used to say wrestling in this country went round in 5-year cycles. I'm not so sure that's true anymore, because this 5 years have long been and gone.
And you get some of the old guys, you know, Sid Cooper, Jim Briggs, masters of their art. And I think now everyone's starting to go back.
In the last few years, we've had some of the older guys, the older Brit Pro guys, starting to step back in the ring and do a few. Danny Collins made a comeback. Johnny Saint started doing things again. Johnny Kidd. And I think that is only going to benefit the people they're actually working with.
It's an entertainment sport at the end of the day, and we're there to entertain.
And that's it for the first semi-final. The next.
When you look back at some of the wrestling back in the 60s, 70s, you look around the crowd and they were all sat there with ties on, suits, or women in their evening wear. It has changed a lot.
I was asked if I would go back in, if I considered it, and I jumped at the chance. I've been wanting to get back into it. I watch it on telly and think, you know, I used to do that. Kids saying, no, you never done that, Dad. And I said, yeah, we used to do that, you know. It was a long time ago. I'm not saying it's been easy, it's been hard. It still is hard now. There's so many people that watch it on telly, think they can do it, go outside with their friends and have a go at it, and it is completely wrong thing to do. You've got to be taught properly, it's got to be done under supervision, because you are going to hurt yourself big time.
Training part, I always find it weeds out the ones that really don't want to be there. And you will stick to it, you will travel to train. I'm going to come back, do a few more. I think I'll eventually set a retirement date. I'm hoping before mid next year.
I don't think I would go back into it as I was before. If it's just a one-off, I'll be chuffed. If I can get a few more after, who knows?
I'm no spring chicken now, obviously. I've been doing it for like 28 years, and it's tough. It is tough. It's a very, very tough sport. You know, people think it's easy, you know, but every time you get out of the ring, you know, the bruises, the batterings, it's never easy when you get older. But yes, I'm going to continue.
It's something I wanted to do, and I think it was worth it, which is why I kept going. But British wrestling, I think, in order for it to get back to where it was, has to go back to what it was.
Second session.
And here we go for the second session with the Wyatt squad. Cooper and Bostrick leading one submission fall to nil. But it's Bostrick has to continue with Peter Collins, of course. That's the two.